Hi. There is no better topic than the US election to demonstrate how, in the market, you should separate your political views from your analysis. In other words, don't confuse wishful thinking with forecasting. I already mentioned how in 2016 I made money betting that Trump would win and also won 4 lunch bets. Now, how did I forecast it when polls were all certain Hillary would be elected? And remember, not only the polls were sure, most political scientists were sure also. For example, in October 2016, I flew to Stanford for the 40th year class reunion of my MBA class. As part of the festivities, a famous Stanford political science professor gave us a presentation based on the latest polls proving Hillary would win. The week before, I placed a bet on Trump, even though I don't like him, because the chances of success were too great and the potential for profit just too juicy. How juicy? Well, on Iowa futures betting site, you could get $1 if Trump won for the cost of 16 cents, 6-1, or 500% profit in 2 months. Nice? Other betting sites gave similar odds. In other words, based on the poll, everyone was sure Trump would lose. Even in the Stanford GSB reunion, the Graduate School of Business, apparently all agreed. A hall full of MBA brainpower all cheered the professor's forecast of Hillary's win. And if anyone didn't agree, he or she sure wasn't saying it. What about me? Having made a bet on Trump the week before, I was itching to get up on my hind legs and tell everyone about it and tell them I'd take more such bets right now at the same odds of Iowa futures, 6-1. Luckily, my super smart girlfriend and life companion tugged at my sleeve and said, don't do it. Why not? Because, she said, my forecast would translate in the minds of listeners into he supports Trump, and then many friends would never talk to me again. So I didn't. In retrospect, it was smart advice, because here is the important point, so listen up. Very few people, even the smartest, especially the smartest, often fail to distinguish between being prescriptive and being descriptive. In other words, promoting a view as a player who tries to convince others versus a passive investor who merely tries to forecast what's likely to happen to place a winning bet. Betting on Trump didn't mean I liked him. Matter of fact, I didn't. A few years before, he got the Philadelphia brokerage firm to fire an analyst who had issued a sell on Trump's casino bonds. I used to run brokerage research departments, so this really got my dander up. And 2 years later, I cheered when Trump's casino indeed went bust. But what's that got to do with forecasting? As the Godfather said, this was business, not personal. I was trying to make a buck on the right outcome of a horse race. Whether I disliked the horse had nothing to do with how I bet. Also, I'm a Canadian, so I can't vote in US elections, and I'm not a player in US politics either. The only thing I can do is try to make money on the outcome, then give some to charity. Once again then, why did I think Trump would win? For 3 reasons. First, I talked to several pollsters, and all said they distrusted their numbers because people that usually were talkative and spoke to them now refused to say who they'd vote for. They were apparently afraid to even speak. Second, the only model that forecasted US elections with uncanny accuracy since 1912 was by a professor named Norpeth in the Northeast, who used only one variable in his equation, 1. Even my gold price model uses 2. Money supply and inflation. Now, which variable did the professor use? It was the strength of support for the candidate by the party's caucus, the base decision makers. The more feeble the support, the better the chance for the other candidate. As simple as that. Well, by 2016, Trump had demolished 17 other candidates easily. His public appearances were mobbed, while Hillary needed alleged backroom tricks to beat away Bernie, who to the last moment refused to support her, so many of his supporters simply stayed home. As a result, in 2016, Norpeth model showed Trump winning with a near certainty. Now, there are many models around, but this one deserved my attention. That's because the only time in 104 years the model was wrong was in 1960, when it showed Nixon winning against John F. Kennedy, while in reality, JFK won. But JFK won allegedly only with the support of mobster Sam Giancana, with whom Kennedy allegedly shared a girlfriend. The very same Giancana who later famously said, vote early and vote often. But yet, aside from that 1960 error, in all other US elections, no-path model was bang on. And in 2016, it showed Trump as a shoo-in. Still, even this was not good enough for me in 2016. I had to do some sleuthing myself, as I usually do. So I called some friends in New York City who were fervent Hillary supporters. What can you tell me, I asked. Well, they said, there's a money-raised event which one of Hillary's close family members was hosting. The price was $5,000 per ticket, and not all tickets had been sold. This was 2 weeks before the election. But it could also be interpreted as justified complacency because the polls, like the ones the Stanford professor was using, forecast a Hillary win. So I called again a few days later and was informed that tickets had just been discounted to $3,000, but still no takers. This was interesting. Were the people who made their living being close to power having doubts? So 2 days before the elections, I called again. This time I got surprising news. There were cancellations, I was told. Hillary supporters were now canceling, saying, keep the money, but take my name off the list. In other words, her supporters began to realize what was coming. The very rich folks close to the top, who make their living off their closeness to power, that is, people who are agents as opposed to principals, were running away. So I increased my money bet and also made one more lunch bet. Now, you would think I'd enjoy the lunches, but I didn't. I had to explain over and over again to the losers that I didn't make the bet to support Trump. The money didn't go into his pocket, nor to his re-election committee. I merely tried to forecast what was to come. All I did was betting to win this horse race. I don't have to love the horse, I said, to bet on the stronger one. Still, my lunch companion looked at me sideways as they paid the lunch bill. Now, this was 3.5 years ago. What about now? So before you'd ask, who would I bet today to win this November? Will it be Trump or Biden? First off, I'll tell you this time I'm not going to bet. Last time, in 2016, I bet only because of the odds were so juicy, 6-1, and the outcome so highly certain. Today, the odds that Iowa Futures and other such sites give you are only 3-2, for Biden, that is. You have to pay 60 cents to make $1 when Trump wins. When, not if, because I think that the certainty today is nearly as high as 4 years ago. Trump will win. How come? All the polls are giving it to Biden. Again, let me give you 3 reasons. First, because if Trump supporters polled in 2016 were afraid to tell their opinions, today they are doubly fearful. So you can't believe any poll numbers today. None. Second, because Professor North's model today gives Trump a 91% chance to win. 91%. Same reasons. But third, today I don't even need to do any sleuthing myself. Willie Brown just did it for me. He publicly recommended to Kamala Harris, his former girlfriend and political protege, not to accept the VP position for Biden if offered. Yeah, to put a good face on it, Brown said it's because the VP is powerless, so she'd better go for the Attorney General position now. But this, in my opinion, is bunkum. I used to live in the Bay Area near San Francisco, and I know that Willie Brown, a former mayor of San Francisco, is one of the smartest and wiliest political operators in the US. In my opinion, he wouldn't have said this to his protege, whom he'd be grooming for years, if he had thought that Biden had a chance. In my opinion, Willie Brown just did what a money raiser for Hillary did in 2016, cut his losses. Like a trader who cuts his loss so he can keep some capital to invest another day, Willie Brown, in my opinion, just told Kamala Harris to cut herself off from a loser so she can run in 4 years, and he could then tag along as an advisor and influencer. She just ignored his advice and accepted it. But I learned to listen to Brown's forecast. He is both a political investor in other politicians and a player himself. To sum up, my speculation, not more than that, is that Trump will win again, but the betting odds of 3-2 are not good enough for me. I have much better odds in other places in the market with much less hassle. Also, there's a 10% chance the election would be delayed quite a while, or the results would be because of riots, since it is so pivotal for the US and also for many of its opponents. And this, of course, is something that no model, no sleuthing can forecast. So as I said, I'm sitting this one out. What about you? Should you bet on it? That's up to you. Remember, The above is not a recommendation, only a speculation. And of course, as always, I could be wrong. That's all for now. Please let me know what you think of the above. Give it a like, which is the online world applause. Then subscribe to the channel and tell all your friends about it so they'll subscribe too. I'll see you next time. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching.